Most of the time when our lives change, they change very gradually. It happens slowly over time, and then suddenly you look back and you're like, whoa, I'm a different person than I was 2 years ago. But sometimes life changes in like an instant moment through a conversation, through an experience, good or bad or neither. And you sit there and you're like, this just changed the whole trajectory of where everything was going with my life. And I had one of those last night, so I want to talk about it. And when I describe it, you might be like, you're being so dramatic, but I'm not. I've been doing human to human for almost 3 years. My name is Jess McDonald, if you don't know, and I'm a psychology graduate, and this is my dream, podcasting, all the things. And so I'm always trying to find ways to like be more authentic, because the whole purpose of human to human is to find ways to live a life of alignment with yourself, figure out how to listen to your body. I'm a huge therapy advocate, and it's mainly about figuring out your life. And I'm in my 20s, so I'm figuring out my life in my 20s. And with the show for the past few months, I've been trying to find a fun beginning thing. Also, if I sound so weird, it's the morning. Okay, I got this excited. One of my intentions is to record as soon as I get inspired, because I think the best episodes come from those moments of like, I have all the words in my brain that I need to say right now. So it's the morning, and I had this moment last night where I was like, oh my God, this has changed everything for human to human. So for the past couple months, I have been trying to figure out a fun way to start my episodes. A lot of people do different things, like Pod Crushed is a podcast with Penn Bagley and two incredible women. Do I remember their names? Both Niva and Sophie. Yes. Okay, so it's Penn Bagley. He plays Joe on You, if you know. That's why I was quoting him first. And Neva, either Neva or Niva, and Sophie. And it's all about like middle school things you went through, just things you struggle with in middle school. So they always start their episodes with guests or alone being like, what's something awkward that you went through in middle school or whatever? What were you like in middle school? Or for example, a YouTuber, Lauren Elizabeth, her podcast is called Mood, and she always starts it with like a best mood, worst mood of the week, and a mood booster. So I was trying to do a human to human moment of the week, which was a moment in the week that reminded me of human to human connection and the importance of human connection and made me feel good. Okay, that's fucking boring. Okay, like I tried to do a few and it kind of was like, oh, cute-ish, whatever. But I fucking found my intro to my episodes, and it happened through my human to human moment of the week. So let me paint the picture for you. Last night, I was hanging out in my backyard. It was me, my boyfriend, two of our friends. It was like a dude's hangout with Jess. Nobody was home. We were just vibing out. And somehow, I want to remember how we got on this topic, but like the difference between hanging out with boys and girls is like, Jane Fonda talks about this. Women look at each other and talk to each other about the world and how they're feeling and everything. Men look at the world together. So they sit back and they look at the world. And boy, is that ever fucking true in my life. When I hang out with girls, it's like super like really chatty, really intense, but really fun and really fulfilling. And with guys, it's so different. It's so just like funny and weird, and we're just like telling random stories and talking about random things. And so one of my friends started telling this story about how he was in elementary school. He was in grade 2, and I won't tell the whole story because maybe he'll come on and tell it one day. But he was in elementary school in grade 2, and he shit himself. And he was in the schoolyard and he pooped his pants, and then he had to figure out what to do. And so then like, I don't know, the two other people we're with, like, they're like, I don't know if we have like a shit story, whatever. And then the conversations kind of go around, and then one of them goes like, Jess, like, do you have a shit story? And I'm like, oh, I have so many. And they're like, we start laughing, like we're just like giggling by the fire, like there might be a little bit of marijuana involved, and we're just giggling, having the best time. And they're like, tell us a story. You have a million poo stories, like what? So I proceed to tell like one poo story, and then my brother has a crazy one. So I'm like, fuck, okay, it's like I have heard my brother recite this story so many times. I have it rehearsed. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to tell my brother's poo story. And one of my friends starts laughing and he goes, oh my God, like your brother needs to tell this story on a podcast. And then I'm like, dude, human to human. And then he's like, stop. If he told this story on human to human, this would be hilarious. And then we keep going, we keep chatting, we keep talking. And then they're like, you need to tell some of these poo stories on your podcast. And you might be listening and you might be like, what is going on? Do we need to hear about your poo stories? But listen, if you're alone going somewhere, you have a poo story. You're probably thinking, hopefully you're thinking, yes, Jess, let's talk about poo. This is where shit's going, guys. Oh my God, every time I'm gonna say shit, it's gonna be like a fucking pun, innuendo. So we just start shooting the shit, talking about shit and all my poo stories. And I get really like, when I get really, really excited or really, really nervous, I have to poo. And that sometimes happens mid-podcast episode. One time I literally was about to shit myself when I was recording and I was in my bed and I was like, oh my God, I need to get up. And I ran to the bathroom. And now I can't remember if I ever kept that in. But as I get older and get more serious about human to human, I want to get a lot more intentional about like, what am I doing with the show? What do I want to share? And I am all about sharing the messiness of human life. I provide coaching. I'm like a life coach, kind of therapy-based coach. And I literally, one of my slogans is, we can meet in the messy middle. And my coaching client I've been working with the most the past couple months says like, oh my God, I feel like there's nothing TMI for us. Like I can just really share openly with you. And I'm like, yeah, girl, that's human to human coaching. That's human to human podcast. That's what I'm about. And so why not make it a little bit more honest? So we're going to kick this episode off because it's all about alcohol, my journey of trying to drink less alcohol, being a slightly like sober curious girl, and exploring what it would be like for me if I didn't drink at family gatherings or social events, and what it would be like if I drank less. And I tell you a bit about my journey with that. And so to kick off the show with POO Talk, which we're going to be kicking the episodes off with, I'm going to tell you about what was actually the like, what's it called? Like the precipice, like the turning point moment for me to be like, I need to stop what I'm doing with alcohol because my body is not happy. This was in March, and it was right around the time when I had head colds all the time. I think a lot of people were dealing with this post-COVID, is getting sick all the time because we were locked up for 2 years and weren't exposed to new germs. And so our immune systems are down. So for me personally, I was getting colds all the time. And then in the beginning of 2023, I was really, really struggling to get rid of my colds. And I continued to go out and party. I continued to go to friends' birthday things. I had a lot of family gatherings. I had, just lots going on. And I was going to school all the time, blah, 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 on the subway for an hour every day. And so I was getting sick. And then it was like a very important gathering coming up. It's my boyfriend's sister's engagement party. And we have been waiting for this party for months. There's been so much talk about her getting engaged. There's been so much talk about wedding planning. We were so freaking excited. So we go off. And like, I'm still in the early, I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years the day this goes out. Happy anniversary to us. But I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years, but like things move at their own pace with getting to know someone's family. So I was like, I'm going to be meeting a lot of his family or close family friends or whatever at this event. So it was like a long day of helping set up and making sure I looked good and the vibes were right, and his friends came and we hit the booze. We hit the fucking booze. We were mixing alcohol. We didn't know what the vibes were going to be because there usually isn't a lot of drinking in his home. Very different than my home. My family loves to drink. And so I think I brought like 2 coolers, but then there was like hard and dark liquor and champagne and wine. So it was a mixing kind of night. And then they catered this delicious Indian food. So there was a lot going on in my tum-tum. And the next morning, the diarrhea was not good. We were talking about this last night about, we were talking about poops. I'm a solid shitter. I usually get constipated if anything. And so having the runs was not the vibe. And I have a hemorrhoid. So don't worry, we're going to get into all of this in the coming weeks. I've also talked about these things a little bit in the past, but I was like, this sucks. My life sucks. And it had been like months in the making, if not a year in the making, but especially the past, like since September to this point in time in March, I was like, anytime I was hungover, I can't do this to myself anymore. I feel awful. I look awful. I cry all the time. I'm an emotional disaster. So this was like kind of a breaking point for me of like, I'm having diarrhea all day. I feel like garbage. My asshole's on fire. And I look at my boyfriend, I'm like, I can't do this. I need to stop drinking. And he's like, Jess, you've been saying you want to stop drinking for so long. I'm so tired of hearing it. And he said this a lot nicer. I don't think this is like a word for word imitation of him. But he was like, I support you. The point of what he was saying was like, I support you. You've been saying you want to do this for so long. Please fucking do it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try and go a couple weeks without drinking. And then I got into this whole like, I'm going to go 30 days without drinking alcohol because our society is obsessed with timelines and time frames of fucking shit. And it's like, you don't need to put a fucking timeline on stuff. That's not how life works. That's not how we do things around here. I'm even trying to like not put on makeup as much if I'm getting really inspired to record an episode, not worry about how I look. Like, we're humans, we're messy. That's not what my show is not about looking perfect. My show is not about figuring your life out perfectly. Perfect doesn't exist in our world. And I've worked a lot in therapy to get over my perfectionist mindset. So we're just getting real around here. So, and I was like glorifying the idea of making a podcast episode that says like what I learned from being sober for 30 days. Fuck all that shit, okay? I love to smoke weed socially with my friends, and I love to have drinks once in a while, and it was just about getting intentional about it and listening to my fucking body. It was not about being extreme. It was like, I'm talking from the perspective of a 22-year-old woman who has been drinking alcohol pretty much since I started high school. And not pretty much, literally since I started high school, and binge drinking, like at parties kind of thing and family gatherings. And so for me, hitting this diarrhea breaking point, I was like, let's just see how long I can go. And if I feel like having a drink, I'm going to have a drink. And this was in the time frame where I was also turning 22, and it was my birthday week, and I just felt so physically unwell that I was like, why am I going to put alcohol in my body? So no, we're not fucking doing it. And it was a really interesting experiment, and it's still continuing. I'm still going through the experiment of trying to understand when I want to drink, honoring that, because when I'm in the mood for a drink, I'm like, let's fucking do it. Let's go to the bar. Let's go pick up a drink from the liquor store. Let's vibe out. But my attitude about it is really changing from like, I have to down all of these drinks and get wasted to I'm going to drink when I feel good, and I'm going to drink to a point where I feel good. And if I stop feeling good, I'm going to stop drinking. And my parents, they have always had, like, my parents are beer drinkers, and my brother and I learned a lot of our drinking habits from our parents. My parents love to have like beers with each other on the weekend. They love to go to a local pub together and hang out. Like, they're so cute. I love them. And everybody learns some form of like drinking behaviors or non-drinking behaviors from their family. So my brother and I are no stranger to that. And my brother and I talk about how we're like guzzlers. We can finish a drink real fast. I'm not a shotgun girl, but I can guzzle a drink. And that's dangerous because you can throw back 5 drinks in an hour. And I'm 5'2.5". So yikes. And I had to learn to slow down and to be more intentional about it. And my parents always had this thing, like, if you didn't finish a beer and you had it lying around, they call it a shame beer. So I always thought like, oh, I always have to finish my drink even if I don't want to drink it anymore. And I totally get it. Like, you buy alcohol, it costs at least $3 a can. Of course you want to finish it because you're just wasting money at that point. But now I've started to sit with myself and be like, girl, you're paying for your own booze. You're a 22-year-old bitch. You don't need to finish this drink if you don't want to. And that permission is so crazy because I've been the girl at parties where I'm like, well, it makes sense though, but I've been the girl at parties where sometimes I'm, at like an Airbnb cottage weekend and I brought a bunch of coolers, and like I look around and all of these friends of mine are like not finishing them. And I'm like, guys, stop opening new ones when you haven't finished your drink, which like, I get that. But I love this new thing I'm trying of just being more intentional about drinking. And so I wanted to make this episode to discuss 4 tips I have on how to drink less and still have fun. And the number 1 tip that I'm going to get into right now, because we are on a freaking roll, I say that and then I hit my elbow, is you don't need alcohol for something to be a celebration. You're the celebration. You're fucking cool. You are a bad fucking bitch. You don't need alcohol to celebrate an accomplishment if you don't feel like drinking alcohol. And the perfect example is my birthday. It was my birthday week. My mom and I went to a beautiful spa. I did have a moment where I was laying in the hot tub and the sun was beating on me and I was like, this feels like vacation. I want a cocktail. And I said to myself, okay, if you want a cocktail, like just whatever the opportunity presents itself, you can get yourself one. And then time went by and I was like, no, I don't want a cocktail. I want to be in my chill zen. And this is something I really struggled with, was this idea that like, I'm not cool if I'm not drinking. And that's bullshit. And it's what society tells us. Society tells us that you have to be drinking alcohol to participate in social events, to have fun at a concert or a rave, or to enjoy, drinks with a friend. It's so normalized, and it's so sad because drinking is so much more normalized than not drinking. Like, it's so much weirder to be like, no, I'm not drinking tonight, or like, no, like, I don't feel like having a beer or whatever. People are like, what's wrong? Why? When at the end of the day, nothing's wrong. You could just be living your fucking life. You could be vibing. This first tip, that alcohol isn't what makes an occasion special, you are, was really cool for me to experiment and explore, because the first time I did this in like kind of a party-ish group setting was a performance that my boyfriend was putting on, because he sings and he makes music. Josh Roy on Spotify, go check it out. He's so good. And this was a really big deal. It was his first ever performance, and this was right in the midst of me struggling with alcohol and trying to figure out how to drink less and what I was going to do about it. And so I communicated with him about this, and he was like, don't drink tonight. Don't drink tonight. You haven't been wanting to drink. You don't need to drink. Don't do it. And I had so much fucking fun and didn't have a drop of alcohol, and nobody cared. I didn't announce it to everybody. And I had so many realizations that I wrote down while I was there, because I was like, this is insane. This is life-changing, the experience I'm having, because 1, I felt like my grade 7 self. And like, I know we all have a complicated relationship with who we were in middle school and such, hence the podcast Pod Crushed, because they talk about middle school awkwardness. But I say that because I have been introduced to drinking since I was like 13. And so I haven't gone to social situations and not drank. This is so sad, kind of, but like I seriously haven't gone to social situations and not drank anything since I was like 12, since I was like in grade 7. And at the time, that's normal. In grade 7, in grade 6, you go to events and you don't, like, okay, I'm not saying you, me, I would go to events and I wouldn't drink. And everyone's introduced to these things at different ages, and you can relate in your own sense. But I was like, this is fun. I feel silly. I feel like a kid. Nobody knows I'm not drunk, so I can dance my ass off and people will be like, LOL, she's drunk and having fun. And I don't have to be. I can just be vibing and having a great fucking time. It was so much fun. And when I was like struggling leading up to this and I was talking to my mom about it, my mom was like, Jess, you're cool. You're fun. Your personality is awesome enough. You don't need alcohol to change that. And I'm like crying in my bed and I'm like, I think you're right. Okay. And then when I sat with myself, I'm like, yeah, like I'm a social person. I'm fun. Like, and even if you're an antisocial person, you learn so much more about yourself and you push yourself so much more out of your comfort zone when you don't give yourself this crutch and this thing to say, drink this and then you're going to be this. No. I mean, yes, if you want to do it, but like, it was just such a cool experience. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to try doing this more. And my grandma had an 80th birthday party, and it was so fun because I didn't drink. And I noticed with both situations, I was so much more energized, and I stayed up so much later and just like hung out so much longer than I would have if I drank alcohol. Because if you have a drink, it's a downer. The only place you can go is down unless you keep drinking, and then you stay energized and stuff. So it was just a really cool experience where I felt also more emotionally connected to the people around me and the conversations we were having, and I just felt a lot more comfortable in myself. I felt like I was being my true self, and when I walked away, there wasn't things I cringed about or was embarrassed about because I was like, I wasn't drinking, and so I was just saying real shit that I would say sober, and it just felt so like heartwarming to me. And that's why I want to make this episode, because I want to encourage you, if you've been struggling with this or dabbling with this or considering, you know, if you're sober curious or considering drinking less or being more intentional about the drugs you use, give it a try. Just have it be a little experiment. And my second tip that I'm going to get into now is you don't have to announce it to everybody. And the sad thing is that so many people care what we're doing and what we're putting in our body, if it affects them and if it affects the fun they're going to have. And people think that if you're not drinking alcohol, well, you're not participating in the vibes and you're not having a good time, which, hello, not true at all. And I was afraid I was gonna be like the loser in the corner being like, I'm not having a good time if I wasn't drinking. And that's why I say you don't have to announce it to everyone, because it's none of their business and you don't need to explain yourself to anyone. For me, it really helped to confide in, you know, one or two people that I trusted, that I knew were going to support me and not give me a hard time. And that's the thing, like, my boyfriend still got like turned, and we still had moments where we were like, we're having fun, and he was like, I'm drunk, and I'm like, I love you for it. Like, it was great. But if you're gonna tell someone that you don't really want to tell that you're not drinking and they're gonna judge you, then it's gonna make the situation a lot harder. Like, for me, I would become more insecure. I would end up drinking. I would just end up drinking. Like, the thing I've really learned is that, like, there's a difference between knowing you want to do something and being ready to do it. And it's okay if those are happening on their own timeline. I wanted to drink less, but there were certain situations where I wasn't ready to not drink in. And there are certain people that I wasn't ready to not drink around. There are certain people I weren't ready to hear their backlash or their opinions of me not drinking. One of them is my brother. He calls me a loser. And it's like, you know, a brother thing. But at the same time, it does hit me where I'm like, I feel like if I don't drink, I am a loser. But then, and I wasn't confident about it yet. And so doing this experiment around people I felt safe around, for example, my boyfriend's performance, his friends were all there, and I felt safe around his friends to not drink because I knew they wouldn't give a shit and they wouldn't give me a hard time at all. So that's what helped boost my confidence to be like, okay, wow, like I can do this in more situations. And then when I did that in my grandma's 80th birthday, I wasn't telling anybody. I was putting club sodas into like a glass of, you know, just a regular glass, so you couldn't see what the label of my drink was, which no one's paying attention. And then it was so funny because at the end of the night, we were kind of figuring out how my grandma was going to get home because a few people wanted to leave at different times. And I was like, I can drive grandma home. And my family was like, what? And I was like, I haven't drank, like, at all. And my dad's like, you haven't drank at all? I'm like, no, I can drive her. I'm sober. And he's like, oh, good for you. But things would have felt different if I think I said that at the very beginning of the night. And I felt really good being like, yeah, I've been sober this whole time and I've had a really good time. And I walked away feeling really fulfilled. And that can happen too when you drink. But sometimes for me, it's just like if my body physically is really unwell or mentally I'm really struggling, drinking alcohol won't help me get out of that funk sometimes. Sometimes, sure. But other times it just makes me feel worse. And so I don't know. I'm making this sound fucking wholesome and shit. That leads me to my third tip, which is to drink something other than water. When you are out and about socially hanging with people and you usually drink, you're used to the feeling of something, either like beer or something fizzy going down. I'm a cocktail bitch, so I'm used to something fizzy going down my throat and in my taste buds and stuff. So I learned really quickly don't just drink water, because drinking water feels lame. It's like, doesn't taste like anything. And you're like, I'm the loser drinking water because I'm blah, blah, blah. So I would bring club sodas, bubblies, kombucha, and all that stuff was so fun because it still gave me the feeling of alcohol, where because it like was flavorful and carbonated and all that stuff. And also like I have something in my hand when I am in social situations. I always drink, so I always have something in my hand. So having a drink always in my hand really helped. And then you still have to pee a lot because you're really fucking hydrated. Think about how great you'll feel tomorrow morning. You are so fucking hydrated because you're just down in some electrolytes. Fucking have a Gatorade. That doesn't feel like alcohol to me though. That feels like a hangover. Gatorade feels like a hangover to me. That's something that's really helped me. And if you're not telling everyone you're not drinking and someone wants to try your drink, maybe that's the time you tell them you're not drinking. But here we go. Tip number 4 is, if you're really nervous about this, pre-plan something that you're going to say you have to do the next day, and that's your reason you're not drinking. Pre-plan a reason. And a lot of times if I'm in a social situation and someone's like, why aren't you drinking? More times than not, it's not a person I want to like tell my deep dark secrets to. It's not someone I want to be like, yeah, I'm actually really struggling with my mental health and I've been like waking up really anxious every morning, and like alcohol really contributes to that. And I had diarrhea like 2 days ago from an engagement party. I mean, I definitely did tell someone that recently, but I don't want to tell everybody that. I want to tell my BF that. I want to tell my BFF that. I want to tell my mom that. But I don't want to tell Joe Schmo, fucking related to my boyfriend somehow, that I'm not close with. And so pre-planning something to say is so good because it helps you have your own back. It helps you show up for yourself, stick with what you wanted to do in the first place, not fall into drinking just because, someone asked you a fucking question and it made you awkward. And some good excuses is that you're driving, or you have something really important to do the next day, a job interview, a run, visiting your gram, and you don't want to be hungover when you're seeing Grammy and you want to just hang with her, and happy Mother's Day. That's what I'm recording this, Mother's Day. And again, like, you don't know anyone an explanation, but when you pre-plan something just in case, it really helps you show up for yourself. And all of this stuff helps you strengthen trust with yourself. Like I said earlier, sometimes we're not yet ready to act on the things we know we want to do or try. And so don't be hard on yourself if you have moments where you're like, I don't want to drink tonight, and you end up drinking. And then, girl, I know the hangover shame all too well. Yes, Taylor's version. I just have had so many hungover moments and mornings where I feel so much shame and am so upset with myself and really wish I didn't drink. And I fell into something. And also, baby steps, bitches. I started doing this like a while ago. I stopped taking shots. I either stopped taking them like, it's making me want to sip some water because that shit makes me throw up. So yeah, I stopped taking shots, or I've been caught. There's this one friend, and if he's listening, you know who you are when I say this, who always catches me when we're always like, cheers, and then I take my shot and I throw it in my drink. And so like, yes, I'm obviously still consuming that shot of alcohol, but I'm consuming it so much less quickly than you would when you are taking a shot, because shot after shot after shot, you're gonna get fucking wasted. And so one of my tactics is still taking the shot so I feel like I can be a part of the cheers, and then throwing it in my drink. If you're outside, you could throw it over your shoulder, but people get mad about that because you're also wasting alcohol that you spent money on. So maybe don't do that. Or just cheers your drink and not participate in the shots. And I wanted to give that little spiel because this doesn't happen overnight. And this didn't happen overnight for me. This has been taking me literally years to get to this place. It's baby step after baby step. I remember the first time I woke up and was like so fucking hungover. This was my 21st birthday. It has been 1 year of me not throwing up from alcohol. Whoop, 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 whoops. Little celebration for a moment. I used to throw up once every month because I drank too much. And the last time was my 21st birthday. I was hungover all day on my actual birthday. I had a great night with my man that night before, but I had a horrible birthday because I felt like garbage. And I said to myself, I have to stop doing this. And it was genuinely, though, 2 straight years of a lot of throwing up from drinking too much alcohol. And that doesn't make you feel good. that means your body is literally rejecting what you're doing to it and yelling at you to say, please fucking stop doing this, because I'm gonna let it all out of my system because I don't want this. And it took me 2 years to do that. I've been drinking, like I said, since I was like 12 and 13. And when it's that long too of drinking, like there's a lot of moments where it's like you probably don't want to drink, but you just do, because that's just what you do, because that's what society fucking tells us to do. But around human to human here, we like to do things differently than the societal things we are pressured to do. And now, you know, again, so that was a baby step to stop throwing up. I was like, I need to figure out how to stop throwing up. And then the next baby step I took was, okay, I'm not going to take shots. And now another baby step I'm taking is, okay, when I don't feel like drinking, I'm going to try and drink something else. And it makes people feel weird. But guess what? What I put in my body is no one's fucking business. Truly. What I put in my body is my own choice, and it should not affect other people. So, I'm going to give one last tip. It's the little bonus. If you enjoy other substances, enjoy your other substances too. My whole point of this is to listen to your body, become aligned with what you're feeling, craving, your body. If you get quiet enough and you think, do I want to drink or do I not want to drink? You will get the answer. And then see what it's like to try and, you know, take action that's aligned with that. And so I say, if you enjoy other substances, enjoy your other substances, because I love to smoke weed. I do. And it's interesting because my brother, he says he gets really anxious when he smokes weed. So he literally doesn't smoke weed ever anymore. And he used to quite a bit. And I'm like, all the power to you, bro. Live your best life. And so I'm doing the same thing, just with a different substance. I'm saying alcohol makes me anxious. I'm going to drink less alcohol. And it's so weird because I feel like that's actually harder to do in our society because it's just so a part of our culture. But for me, I love a good joint. If I'm in the mood, if I want to be chilled right out, if you can't tell, I'm a hyper bitch, okay? I'm like, blah, 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 when I get excited. And alcohol only heightens that and makes my brain just swirlier and more just a little bit hectic sometimes. And so for me, when I smoke, I get more chilled out. And sometimes I even will come home from like a drunken night and I won't even reflect and be like, that was fun, because my brain was so chaotic that I don't even like feel like I remembered conversations or remembered things that were fun. And I am all about the human to human connection. I love talking to people one-on-one. I realized I thrive on one-on-one relationships and just conversations. And when I go out, I love to connect once in a while with someone at the event one-on-one. And when you're drunk, like, you don't have those moments as much. You don't remember them as well. They don't feel as like emotional to you. Like, it numbs you. Alcohol numbs you. So that's something I'm like, then don't do it as much. But I really enjoy smoking weed. So like, I did a girls' weekend with my family recently, and my aunt, bless her, brought this little weed vape. So at one point, like, we were drinking during the day, and at one point I was so done and I was chugging water, and I took her weed vape and I got high, and I just had the best time because everything was funny and silly. And like last night with the friends, we were just laughing and high and just telling great stories. And so there's nothing wrong. I don't want to say there's nothing wrong, because it all depends on your relationship with it. I'm obviously not speaking from a place of like alcoholism or addiction to substances, but I feel like, well, if you're in that position, I highly recommend seeking therapy, seeking support, seeking help, because there are ways to manage it and cope with it. And I've seen several people in my family struggle with alcoholism and either continue to struggle with it or seek support, like AA or, you know, therapy routes and all that stuff. So help is out there. Help is possible. Some things are not as financially accessible, but some things are. And if you're not ready yet, it's like your decision. You know what I mean? Like with any of these topics, with any of the severities of alcohol and substance use, it's in your control. And yes, our environments deeply affect us, but at some point we have to take accountability for the way we are participating in the cultures we are surrounded by. And I think our confidence, our self-trust, and our joy comes when we honor the things that we really need and live a life of fucking alignment. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to just say that I offer coaching. I do one-on-one sessions. They are 60 minutes long on Zoom. I give session notes on a shared Google Doc, so whatever we talk about, you can walk away and refer back to it. Between sessions, we can also DM or email, send voice notes, do all that stuff. And the purpose of human-to-human coaching is so there is a safe place that I'm creating. It's judgment-free, where you can vent, you can word vomit, you can let anything you need to let off your chest. And I am here to ask questions, to help you figure out what makes sense for you, to help you identify your goals, your dream life, to work through limiting beliefs, figure out what you're struggling with. And eventually, the goal is to lead a life of alignment, to lead a life where you are listening to your body and you can have more fulfilling experiences because you are building that trust with yourself and you are honoring the needs that you have. So if you're interested, I have a link in the show notes where you can book a free 30-minute discovery call. As well, my DMs are always open. So if you want to ask me any questions, it's at Human to Human Pod on Instagram and TikTok. It's not as easy to DM on TikTok. So DM me on Instagram or email me humantohumanpod@gmail.com. And that's all. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it to a friend. If you have a friend that you like to talk about drinking culture, or you like to talk about the struggles that we go through with this, please share it with them if you think they would enjoy it. Make sure you're downloading every episode. And while you're here, pause where you're standing or walking or sitting and just go onto the app you're listening to right now. It's so easy. Click a hopefully 5-star review if you liked it. Click a star review, and if you're on Apple Podcasts, scroll to the very bottom and leave a written review. It would really mean so much to me. I have a lot more episodes to come. If you subscribe, you will it will ensure that you're tuned in every single Monday when I release new episodes. And in the meantime, let's keep up on the IG and the TikTok at Human to Human Pod. And yeah, good luck. Good luck out there, folks. It's a hard place, but fuck other people's opinion. Live your best life. I know it's hard though, so have grace with yourself. Okay, I love you. Bye.